Hello, everyone. My name is Akal, and I am a somatic therapist. I am also a men's sexual wellness coach. So, what I want to talk about in this video is kind of the clickbaity title I had, which is your manhood. How do you make your manhood bigger, stronger, longer, more potent, etc.? So first off, I have to define manhood for you. There's basically two different ways to look at manhood. One of those is, well, it's the informal way of describing the actual penis itself. So that would be your manhood, which is probably why you clicked on the video. Now, the second way to look at your manhood has to do with those attributes that are generally associated with a full-grown man, meaning sexual potency, very important, courage, and strength. So again, the stereotypical features of what it is to be a man. So what's really important here to understand is we have two different ways to look at your manhood. And again, I'm talking about sexual potency as well as the actual physical, the penis itself. So the physical aspect or the energetic aspect. These are the two ways. And in physics, you might be able to, play a game here. It's a reductionist perspective that you might find as a physicist, and this is a paradox in physics, which is, and it has often to do with the observer. So if the observer is wanting to find the finite particle, the finite basic particle that underlies all matter, and he thinks in his mind that it is indeed a physical particle, he will find a particle. Now, on the other hand, if the observer, the scientist, says, oh, it's a wave or it's energy, then he will indeed find a wave or energy because the matter is basically conforming to the observer. I believe this is called like the observer effect. There's probably some sophisticated name for this anyway. But it's a real thing. It's a paradox. So the idea here is that you can perceive your genitalia in very much the same way. Are you going to perceive it as physical, which it is, or are you going to perceive it as energetic, which it is? So meaning it's both. And that's a reality. So now talking about one's endowment, a lot of men get really caught up on the size of the penis. A little obsessive, in fact. I've been there. In my 20s, I went through all sorts of crazy stuff about wanting to understand what's the average genital size, and I did all this research and blah 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 and measured my bits and pieces and did all these things, and anyway, I became informed. Did it help? No. So here's the reality is that there's a lot of different techniques out there that if you are all very concerned about the actual physical size of the penis, you can look at these things. You have pumps, you have gadgets and gizmos and pills and all sorts of different things. And then there's techniques like Taoist techniques, like there's one called jelqing. Now, jelqing squeezes the blood up towards the tip of the penis in an effort to expand the size of the head of the penis, which would be kind of the functional side of the penis. Women, and again, if you're a man who loves men, this is applicable also just in a slightly different way. But for women, what they've generally said is that it's more about the girth and not the length. In fact, there can be too long, and that can be painful. And there is often too short as well because she can't feel it. Now, there's all sorts of ways to get around this. But you have to be able to shift away from the perception that your penis is only physical. If you're carrying the perception perception that your penis is only physical and that it's the size that matters, it's gonna be really difficult because essentially you're not accepting what God gave you. You're not accepting what's innate. So if you're not accepting what's innate, it immediately creates a scar, an insecurity. How do we get over that insecurity? You get over the insecurity by developing skills. Because again, all these surveys I read, they made a statement. Size does matter, kinda, but what matters more is the connection. What matters more is the individual's skill. What matters more is his ability to use his entire body, his hands, his tongue, body weight, and pressure. So it's about accessing what's innate to most women, which is sensitivity. So what this requires, though, is because most men, I can speak through my own path. I'm very sensitive at this point in my life, but when I was 28, not so much. I had to cultivate the sensitivity, meaning I had to uplift my level of sensitivity to that of a woman. So once I was able to increase my sensitivity, my sensation, my sensitivity, when I'm saying sensitivity here, I mean sensitivity to energy. Sensitivity to, or another way to look at sensitivity is empathy. My ability to connect with her, empathize with her, and essentially sense what she needs. This is what makes you potent. This is what increases the size of your manhood. Again, you can jelq, you can do your gizmos, your gadgets, and take your pills. You might get a little bit of length, you might get a little bit of girth. But I guarantee you're a better lover, because it doesn't matter how big your junk is. If you're shitty in bed, you're not going to get it done. Just a fact. So a couple other things that kind of want to talk about in this regard is when I'm talking about the energetic size of the penis, what am I actually talking about here? Again, you can look at the physical penis, then there is essentially the, and I hesitate to use the word chakra here, but it's kind of the second chakra or the sexual chakra, the area right at the pubis. So right above the base of the penis at the pubis. Again, if you develop sensitivity, and I'm going to get into that in a moment of some of the ways you can develop this sensitivity, but there's something very interesting that happens, and I'll tell you my own story. So this is about 5-6 years ago approximately. I was doing what's called mula bandha or rootlock. And I was contracting and relaxing rootlock. And what rootlock is you're contracting your anus, your perineum, your genitals, you're pulling your belt line, and that is mula bandha or rootlock. So I was playing with rootlock, I was contracting it, then I noticed a tension. It was a very unusual tension. Well, it was unusual for me to notice. So I felt this like tension right at the base of the penis, right at the pubis. And then what I did is I relaxed it. And I felt this growth. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. This like growth that came off, it was like this energy that extended out from my pubis when I relaxed it. And it became very wide. And this was literally like, it was like my actual physical penis was 3 feet long and about a foot wide. And actually, in some ways, it probably is even longer and wider. So now how is this useful? Well, keeping in mind that we are energetic beings. So if you're with a woman who is attuned to energy, to emotion, energy in motion, if she is sensitive to these things, this energetic penis that I just described actually can bring her to orgasm without you physically touching. Now, this is a truth because I've done it. I've had this experience with multiple women. Not even physically touching them, just simply extending the energy inside them. There is an orgasmic response that can happen. So, in combination with the practice of taking your time, utilizing your hands, your mouth, again, treating her whole body as an erogenous zone. Again, these are skills. So men, slow your roll. Slow down when you're approaching her sexually. She needs more time to warm up than you do. So these are the real basic things that will make your penis seem absolutely enormous. And then again, secondarily, you have to work on your sensitivity. Again, that idea that your energy can extend out and fill her up. This is really important to remember. So practically speaking, what should you do? I mean, what can I tell you in this video in a very short period of time that's going to help illuminate this? 2 things. There's a whole lot of things you can do. So thinking about the idea that your sexual potency, again, your manhood, your sexual potency, your sexual strength, not just the physical penis itself. How can you enhance this? Yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, all sorts of those sort of meditative practices are going to enhance this. 2, eating, your diet. If you eat too much, it's going to deplete that. If you eat the wrong foods, it will deplete that. If you physically exercise in excess, it will deplete that. Let's see what else. Alcohol, drugs, all deplete that. It depletes anything that's going to deplete the overall life force, the overall vitality of the man is going to decrease the sexual potency, again, because it's all connected. You can't say sexual energy is here, and then the energy for your cognitive energy, let's say, that's over here. That's completely separate. No, they're entirely connected. There is no separation. So what you can do basically, other than living a tremendous lifestyle and cultivating your own sensitivity, some of the things you can do in order to cultivate that sensitivity is Rootlock, which I mentioned to you earlier. By learning to contract your pelvic floor, you can learn to relax that pelvic floor. Now, you can pull Rootlock all day, doing these Kegel muscle exercises and things like that. You can do this all day. But if you're ejaculating all the time, is your potency ever really increasing? No, it's not. So I'm sorry, the other way here to increase your potency, your skill, your stamina, again, just like your capability as a lover, is to abstain from ejaculation. Not abstain from orgasm, but from ejaculation. And again, they're two separate things, two separate nerve bundles. So if you abstain from ejaculation, you will build internal pressure. And that is that's the energetic penis. That is a result of that pressure. It is a sexual pressure. So that is one of the ways, like I said, you can increase this. So abstaining and practicing Rootlock. Again, Rootlock, let me go ahead and walk you through real quick. So do this. Inhale a deep breath. And as you're inhaling, you want to draw your awareness through the brow point, down the front side of the body. You want to relax. Inside the pelvic bowl, you want to relax the anus, the perineum, which is the space between the anus and the genitals. You want to relax the genitals. You want to relax your pubis and your belt line, all on inhale. Now, this is how I'm teaching this is the sort of typical way. There's a lot of variation with this Rootlock. Sometimes you can pull Rootlock as you're exhaling, and sometimes you pull it as you're inhaling. And they do different things. It doesn't so much matter in this context. What I'm trying to do here is to familiarize you with your pelvic floor. So as you're inhaling through the brow point, drawing your awareness down the front side of the body to the pelvic bowl, you contract anus, perineum, genitals, pull in your belt line. Exhale, and you gently cinch these contractions a little tighter and tighter. Having the breath retained out, drawing your awareness down there, feeling and sensing, then relax Rootlock. Inhale, draw a big breath in. Once again, relaxing everything along the pelvic bowl. Do this somewhere between, do it 11 times. Let's say 11 times. Truth is, this is all very arbitrary. If you practice this enough, whether you're doing, 3 sets a day of 6 repetitions, or if you're doing 2 sets a day of 11, again, it has to do with how often you are practicing this. If you practice something for 40 days, again, this is very important. I have to emphasize this. All the programming I do for men, which, by the way, if you're interested, I have a male sexual sovereignty program. So if you want to elaborate on these lessons, on these exercises, and develop these skills on a much, much deeper level while being, held accountable, and also having the ability to integrate these things into your life, then I offer a coaching program, which is called Male Sexual Sovereignty. So the more you practice these things, and again, you want to think about a 40-day period of time. So the 40-day period of time, it's absolutely biblical in nature. This 40 days, you can pretty much follow it into any major religion, every major spiritual path. They will talk about this concept of 40 days in order to cultivate a new pattern. Meaning it's the nervous system. It's about the nervous system. It's about the nervous system's ability to adapt. Is it about the muscles becoming bigger and stronger? No. It's about the nervous system. So what else is interesting about the nervous system? Well, that is the pathway that you follow that you connect to the body. Like for instance, if I meditate on the tips of my fingers, which is a high density of nerves, the sensitivity becomes, I guess, more acute, or more finite, or more sensitive. I'm losing my words here. So the point is you become more sensitive to your fingertips the more you meditate on your fingertips. A lot of massage therapists have like highly, highly sensitive fingertips because they use their fingers a lot. So with all that said, hopefully you have a little bit of a better understanding here of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about manhood. And I'm talking about your ability to make your manhood really, really, really big. Again, it's about the energy. And so here's one other thing I guess I'll say, just because I almost forgot to say it. So if you've done the 40 days, if you've cultivated your connection to your pelvic floor, if you've abstained for ejaculation for at least 40 days, and you're about ready to make love, what you could do, what you could try, is extending off the pubis, relaxing the pubis, and extending the energy and filling her or him with that energy, and then making love. And see, because again, in my experience, it's absolutely more effective. You will fill her full of orgasmic, or him full of orgasmic sensation, because you are connecting, which is the most important thing, is about the connection. And then number 2 is your skill. So with all that said, I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you much.